Getting diagnosed with ADHD, what is it like and how do they do it? Well, here you go. I am diagnosed with ADHD. My name is Eric. If you're new to my channel, hit the like and subscribe button. Hit the bell if you want to be notified for more videos. I am not a doctor, counselor, or therapist. I am diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, GAD, and MDD. I lost a wife and a father to suicide. I'm a recovering cocaine and alcoholic addict, and I do everything I can to share to help anybody through struggling of life, of knowing that you're not alone and knowing that you do matter. Getting diagnosed. When you get diagnosed with a mental illness, it's a lot of times not what we think. We're afraid to go into the therapist to get our diagnosis because we're not sure what they're going to do. Well, here's what you can expect when getting diagnosed. They will do basic medical on you, but there is no MRIs, there is no needles, there's no x-rays, there's none of that. What they're going to end up doing is they're going to usually check your height, your weight, your blood pressure, your temperature, and that's usually about it. And the reason that they do that is just to make sure that there's nothing that could interfere. Next comes to getting diagnosed, and getting diagnosed is done through a couple different ways. It's done through observation. It is done through them asking you also a series of questions. There can be a different test that they can put you through, and it's to see the consistency of when you're answering these questions. The observation will let them know how you feel, how you react to different questions, how you react to different environments. They also will ask you a little bit about your background. In that sense, they're talking about your parents, because ADHD is something that is genetic. So if one of your parents has ADHD, you may have ADHD. And a lot of the questions are more or less like, okay, so when do you feel that your attention is less? Is it at work? Is it at school? What is happening when you're in those environments that makes you feel that you may have ADHD? How do you react around other individuals? How are you in your friendship making skills? And getting diagnosed is something that you can get diagnosed at an earlier age. A lot of times, one of the biggest misconceptions with a lot of mental illnesses is, one, they can be misdiagnosed because there is no plugging us into a machine to get diagnosed and saying, hey, this is what your diagnosis is. Guess what? It's literally done through questions, and then it's done through trial and error. It is one of those that can get us sometimes misdiagnosed. ADHD and bipolar 1 are often misdiagnosed, along with BPD and CPTSD are often misdiagnosed. So there are often mental illnesses out there that will get misdiagnosed because they mirror each other very similarly. And through the communication that you have with your therapist, through your doctor, it helps weed out whatever it might be. And it is okay to get misdiagnosed and re-diagnosed. Again, I was ADD, then later on ADHD. There's nothing wrong with getting re-diagnosed. And if you don't trust your doctor, going to another therapist and getting a re-diagnose just to make sure of what you have. Going to the therapist and getting your diagnosis is not a scary thing. There is no blood being drawn. There's no operating table. There's none of that. A lot of it's questions and observation. Expanding and being as open and honest with them as possible will help you get the correct diagnosis, because sometimes you will go through these different highs and lows emotionally. You want to let them know what they're like, how they make you feel, what kind of environment you're in when they happen, because there's different things out there that can trigger different parts of our mental illness. And when it comes to ADHD, one of the biggest solutions usually is medication. And do not be afraid of medication. It is a lifesaver. I'm prescribed Adderall. I take 10 milligrams in the morning and 10 milligrams in the afternoon, and it helps me be a functioning adult. So getting diagnosed is important because also it allows you to have the letter from your therapist saying, this is what you're diagnosed with a stamp from a doctor. So guess what? When it comes to work, when it comes to school, you have this now backing you instead of any kind of self-diagnosis that you have that, hey, this is my struggle. And teachers and HR departments are usually willing to work with you a little bit more when you do have that correct diagnosis. Also, getting correctly diagnosed lets you know what you have. Instead of just sitting there struggling going, I know something's wrong, but I don't know what I have. This allows you to get the research done that you want, to understand what you're going through, and then how to work through it. Because you know what? ADHD, you're not a victim to it. It's one of the greatest gifts that I have. And it also doesn't mean that you are bouncing off the walls. That's one of the biggest stigmas around ADHD, is that you're extremely hyper. That is not the case at all. It does not have anything to do with being super hyper and bouncing off the walls. It's a lot to do with our thought process and how our thoughts work. And then where our focus shifts to and where it actually gets hyper-focused to. If you're new to my channel, again, hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below. Do not be afraid of going out and getting diagnosed. And if you are struggling, go out and get a diagnosis. And if you don't believe your diagnosis, go get a re-diagnosis, because it makes a huge difference. You'll even find in the description box, if you click that, you'll find links to all my different social medias. You'll find links to the mental health Discord communities for free peer-to-peer support. You'll even find links down below to things on Amazon like fidget cubes, fidget spinners, things that I use to help me through my anxiety, to help me through my depression. You even have a link down below to BetterHelp. Finding out what works best for you is everything, because you are the most important person out there. You've made it through 100% of your worst days, and you're worth it. So definitely, if you are struggling, try therapy and try it a couple different times. Sometimes we find the wrong therapist and it takes a little bit of work to find the right therapist. But I believe in you and you got this. So click that button and let's do this.